Dear community, welcome. Yuri is here. We start our live session regarding VWAP secrets because we will cover about this beautiful indicator, how it will help you to take powerful trades on the crypto market and make significant profits. When we you can during different market environment, during trend, during range. I personally trade with VWAP on daily basis. Uh, that's my result. And in today's video, I will show you how you can also make significant profits with VWAP. That's why it would be maximum practical. Also, I will show to you previous trades that we took on previous weeks, in what cases we got played out, in what cases we got stop losses, because you need to know when it works, when it doesn't. Now, that's why watch till the end. What would be agenda of our masterclass? Uh, we will cover, shortly we will meet at each other. I will shortly tell about myself. After that, our recent trades results. After why we need the strategy and VWAP as a component of that strategy. Reason why we use VWAP, how to get the best VWAP on TradeView, our settings, and also how we combine it with other indicators, because you need to understand that none of indicator by itself will make you profitable. You need to know how you add them together. VWAP powerful tool, and I will show to you how you can use it during trend market, range market, reversal setups. That's why it would be really useful for you. At this moment, write in the chat about audio quality from 1 to 10. 10 means you hear me well, you see me well. And also push like, my friends, because this masterclass would be mega practical for you. Good, I see that people coming. I think we don't need to waste our time. I think we can start. Okay, let's go. Write plus into the chat that you're ready to start. Good, good. Okay. For market analysis to real trades, today I will show you how we use VWAP and market structure and find better trades, not random signals, just clear trading process. Later, I will show to you how you can use the same process with tool support and trader behind you. Plan. I already showed you our plan. Few words about me. I co-founded Bigger Trading Academy. We trade crypto and Nasdaq futures on a daily basis. I have proven strategies that work during different market environments, and that's exactly what I will show to you. Also, I married and I have a son. Also, I'm top trading new offer with more than 80,000 followers. That's results that we take on daily basis. We trade markets nearly every day, and that's exactly what I will show to you. How also you can achieve such results. These results are not random. They come from having a clear trading plan before you enter every situation, every position. Random entries create random results. Before every trade, you need to know where is my entry, what is my stop loss, what's my target, is risk reward worth it, is prices in a good area. Uh, because in the end, you need to understand you make money in the market not because that you right in every situation. You make money because your profits in 2-3 times bigger than money that you put into a risk. For example, your risk 300, you made 1,200 in the end, you made money. And today I will show you how to, thanks to VWAP, you can find those places on the chart, and how with VWAP you can use it really become profitable. Right at this moment in the chat, if you ever used VWAP, write plus if you used, minus if you never used VWAP, because VWAP really important. Why VWAP help us to find better entries? First, you need to know, before we explain to you how VWAP help us find better entries, first let's find out what's VWAP by itself. VWAP, beauty of VWAP, that it shows to you quite a lot of data at the same time. VWAP, it's not some, I would say, indicator. It shows to you a data. VWAP calculate average price of each candle by traded volume. For example, one candle average price. After that, he had another candle average price traded by volume. And why it's so important? Because often it played out as a powerful dynamic support resistance. It follows the price. If there are more volume higher, VWAP would follow through. If there are more volume lower, VWAP would come back. Let me show to you several examples. I think one of the best example, it was a few days ago on SUI, and SUI did this beautiful move up. We will cover quite a lot of situations on SUI, and what you would see that SUI, when this open interest started to increase from this lower structure, you build VWAP, and you would see how price exactly bounced from VWAP. Why is this super important for us? Because, for example, you understand that price is going up, but do you agree with me that it is way better to take long here than here? Do you agree with me? Write plus if you agree with me in a chat. Regarding my microphone is going from this studio microphone. It's really beautiful. It's really powerful microphone. I don't know why some people say this. I moved that microphone a little bit from me. Maybe it will work better. Maybe I will overstretch. Maybe because it's too close and okay. Right, friends, once more. Write plus in the chat. Do you agree that it is better when you look for a long, for example, to take trade here than here? Why it's better? Because it's really mega simple. It's better because your risk to reward would be way better. What I showed to you, we started this masterclass, that you become profitable not because that you're right in every situation. You become profitable because when you're right, you make in several times more than you lose. That's the secret. And for example, imagine situation, you see that coin move up a lot. What you do? You rush into a trade, and because of that, you need really big stop loss. And in order to make at least some 1 to 2 risk reward, you need significant move. But when you take trade at Viva, you don't need such big stop loss. And for you, it's easy to take, for example, 1 to 3, 1 to 4 risk to reward ratio. And in that case, for you, it's very easy to be profitable. That's a reason why we need VWAP, and that's why VWAP is beautiful. Of course, I will show to you more examples. I will show to you other reasons why we need and why we use it. That's why, super shortly, if we come back to VWAP, what's VWAP? VWAP, it is this line on a chart that shows to you where biggest, where average volume traded. That's the reason why it's called volume VWAP, volume weighted average price. A lot of algo from big funds, hedge funds, they use it, and also you need to use it also. In crypto, I will show to you in the future examples for how we use it because there are different ways how we use it. Also, remember that on VWAP, we have not only VWAP itself, but we also have a deviations. Why deviation is super important? Because deviations will show to you border of a market. Let me show to you what deviation means. We have this beautiful picture. We have this beautiful picture. Two. In a statistic, we have standard deviation. It is repro lagging sound. Do I have really lagging sound? Friends, write please about sound quality. 111. Friends, write please about sound quality. Okay, I will speak directly into microphone, friends. Directly into microphone. Uh, coming back to VWAP, what you need to remember, VWAP, speaking closely is better. Good. Coming back to VWAP, VWAP, it is this zero. Standard deviation shows to you how volume represents. Why this stuff matter? Because from second deviation to second deviation, we have 95% of traded volume. Why does that matter? Because above or below second deviation, less than 5% of volume. Above, below first deviation, less than 32% of volume. Why does that matter? Because often such deviations would played out as the borders for a market, especially when price is in a range. And often during range market, especially, we'll use VWAP as a clear book to take trades. Especially, let me show to you example on Ethereum or BTC, because honestly, I love this the most for range market, as you can see. VWAP deviation show to you best borders. That's why we will cover it so soon. Let's go to our presentation. Let's continue. That's why VWAP help us to find better entries. VWAP help us to understand that whether the price fair, stretch, or coming back to value. That give us an advantage, accuracy, and the most important, we follow big fish because most companies they use VWAP, their algo. As you know, most of volume that traded on exchanges, it did by algos, and algo need something to calculate because algo cannot take trades from thin air. They need to follow something, and for them, it is the best to follow VWAP. Also, VWAP help us to find best trades, and today I will show to you quite a lot of secrets because VWAP by itself, it's not a magic grail. You know how to combine it together with other tools such as the open interest and other stuff. Because the most important question it is how to start a VWAP. Because that's really difficult. For that point, we often use together open interest. Why open interest is super important and why we use for a trend start VWAP together with open interest. Because when you see price range, you don't know when there will be aggressive move. Often, when big guys, big players plan to do something, they build position. And when they build position, you can see it exactly in open interest. Because open interest, super shortly, it is when people take trades on exchange. By the way, I did masterclass 2 weeks ago about open interest, how we use it. Uh, you can find it on our YouTube channel. That's the reason why you need to subscribe, push like, because we will do quite a lot of live sessions for crypto community to show you how you can trade crypto and make money on that. Uh, the most important question when you build VWAP, it is, as I told you, when to start it. And one of the approaches that we use with my team, it is when we see significant open interest increase, we start VWAP from exactly that moment when open interest started to build up, or if it closed to some swing low, from that swing low. Often that would be a start of a new structure, which you can use as new opportunity from which you can take trades from VWAP. That's the reason why we combine all of the stuff together. Beauty, once more, beauty of VWAP, when you have a trending market, you use VWAP as a powerful support resistance. Another example for you, the same was on Dogecoin. I did quite a lot of video updates on Dogecoin on this YouTube channel. Write, friends, please in the chat, how many of you saw my updates regarding Dogecoin? How many of you saw my updates that I did on this channel regarding Dogecoin? How many of you remember when I pointed to this open interest increase and we started to build VWAP from this swing point because it is really close to this open interest increase? And what price did? Price, as you can see, bounced, nearly retested VWAP, and after that again retested VWAP. Several times before actual trend breakout, price bounced from VWAP. You had several opportunities to make money. Of course, it didn't work like every situation, 100% cases, it didn't work, but you had at least 1, 2, 3 options where you could make money. And after that, yes, here during this trend break, like it didn't play out, it broken, and you would get your stop loss. That's the reason once more why I pointed to you to this one. You won't make money being right on every trade. You will make money when your profits in several times bigger than your risk, and that's what we will do together with VWAP. That's why future VWAP. Okay, I can see. Can you tell us uh, if only VWAP is good to be used for entries, or it's better to look for confluence? For example, VWAP sometimes sits where 50 MA sits and price often bounds there. Uh, it depends. I will show to you in what case better to use VWAP, because it depends on the trend and market structure. I will show it to you. That's why once more, for VWAP, the most important, it is a starting point. For a trend, we have three options how we build VWAP. It is from a swing low. You have some swing low. It is exactly when you start building VWAP. Second option, it is when you have massive open interest increase. And third option, I will show to you within a few minutes. Let me show to you example when significant open started to increase, open interest started to increase in the middle of November. As you can see here, open interest started to increase. There is nothing, not significant kill level, something like that. And what you do, you build VWAP. Why is that VWAP super important? Because you need to remember that this stuff works in both directions, for long and for short. An example for you: imagine situation like this Worldcoin situation. You see that open interest increase in this case by 150 million contracts, which is a lot. Imagine some people open trades on exchange on that amount of money. That's a huge amount of money. But where to take a trade? Is it volume for short or for long? Simply build with up and wait to see what the volume would do. If price consolidate below VWAP, it means sellers stronger, they push price down, and for you it would be better to follow. Another example also was another example for short was exactly this. Right? Massive open interest increase also in the middle of nowhere. And why often I publish video updates when I see significant open interest increase? Because often after that, we will have big volatility rise. And even here, as you can see, open interest increase, yes, price did some consolidation, and after that, quite significant downtrend. And how far? Minus 40%. Uh, and after that, what you see is that price below VWAP, and your main goal is to look for continuation. You don't guess, you understand, we below VWAP, we follow. Even hype, when it started its massive pump, it started its uptrend. Have a look how it started its uptrend. You can see that a lot of open interest entered in the middle of nowhere. Price consolidate around it, and after that you have flip up, retest, and even after that, again, as you can see, what they did, they retested VWAP and did additional move up. That's the reason why, once more, I advise you to look for VWAP because a lot of funds, a lot of companies, they use VWAP. Regarding answering to your question, my friend, we use VWAP together with other order flow tools, such as the volume, delta, open interest, because for you, it's really good to see that someone big entering, stepping into that area to take trades. Because in the end, price move because of supply and demand. And when you have that some volume enter here, it's a good confirmation. Confirmation always better because confirmation is additional filter. It will help you increase win rate, take better trades. That's why confirmation is good. Friends, from 1 to 10, write into the chat. How do you enjoy what I am showing to you? That's why we use VWAP together with other order flow stuff, as I showed to you, with open interest, volume profile, delta, and other stuff. Because VWAP simply shows to you area. Then it would be really good as a key area to have some additional confirmation. Example, as I showed you on SUI, it was maybe one of the best example. You have swing low, and after that price just beautifully moved through VWAP. How to get this VWAP? This one, it's really easy. It is free, which you can use on, uh, it is Ankit VWAP. What about my settings? Here you can see my settings. You can pause the stream and you simply can copy my settings. Additionally, as you can see, I have different templates because sometimes I switch between deviations, like third deviation, first deviation. Normally, I use 0.5, 2, and second 5. Okay. Let's go to the next important question. How do we combine VWAP with all other stuff, with trend, volume profile, and all other stuff? First, you need to understand you will work with VWAP differently depend on a trend. Because if price in a range, you will use it differently. If price in a trend market, you also will use it differently. Super shortly, if the price is in a range, you will use not VWAP, you will use VWAP deviations, and around those deviations, you will look for a trade. If the price is in a trend, you will use VWAP as a key support resistance. Let's cover a few examples. Let's cover even closer example. It was a beautiful trade. Let's cover this beautiful example. It was exactly this trade that we took on Worldcoin. How many of you saw our updates regarding Worldcoin? Right into the chat. Worldcoin started a new structure, volume started to build up, and what happened after that? As you can see, Worldcoin did significant pump. Nearly the same pump had happened on all coins previously. Let me show it to you. We should delete all of this stuff. You can see from all of this swing low, the price retested VWAP, did beautiful move up. Retested 0.5 deviation, did additional move up. In most cases, when you will have strong trend, price would retest VWAP. Okay, let's cover some best examples. Let's cover for a start for a trend or range. Which one is better for you? Vote one for trend market and one and two for range market. Okay, I can see. Let's do for a start with a trend. With a trend market, I see range market. Uh, let's do for a start for a trend market, and after that we will do for a range. For a trend market, as I told you, the most important it is a point when you start a VWAP, because even on this WorldCoin situation, you can see we didn't have significant open interest increase after until this big pump. In that case, better to use from swing low. It is exactly a moment when we build a VWAP. And test of VWAP, it's exactly a place where we look for continuation. In some cases, price retest VWAP just beautifully. As you can see, we had this lower low, and it was exactly a moment when price retested it even way better. Another example on SUI. Sometimes, my friends, it's just perfect. On SUI, quite a lot of our students took beautiful trades. It was because we also traded SUI, we traded Ripple, ADA, quite a lot of coins we traded with our community. On ADA also, it was on SUI. Quite a lot of our guys took a trade. How do you take a trade here at VWAP? The most important it is to take a trade. In that case, you simply can set up limit order if you're really confident. Honestly, I love when price stop and VWAP and do a little consolidation. That's really the best. In that case, I hide your stop loss below this 0.5 VWAP deviation. It's really the best place where you can hide it. And first target would be simply mathematical until second or second and 2.5 VWAP deviations. That's how you take it. Honestly, sometimes such impulse happens, but honestly, it's not often. In most cases, you will have like average 10-50%. For example, for you, like in some cases, there's a problem, as you can see, price would not retest VWAP, but simply consolidate and continue. In that case, sometimes with my team, what we do, we pay attention to what's going on with open interest. If we have significant open interest increase during this move and price consolidate above it, often we can rebuild VWAP and start it from a point from which this move had started. And after that, take trade at VWAP. At this moment, friends, write questions in the chat. Mhm. Okay, and let's go to, while you write a question, let's go to another example, not only trend movement. Let's cover additional few examples when I took personal trades. It was this example when I made 1,696 on Ethereum. What was the reason why we took the trade? There was only one reason, that from this swing point, price retested VWAP, and additionally, we had significant open interest increase in this point. And that's after, as you can see, price continues this downtrend. I took only 5.26% move, and after that, price did very, very big move. Price after the drop nearly three times more. That also was one of the greatest situations that I traded. It was not this one. It was exactly also this example, trend following. As you can see here, why would you take short here? Let me show to you on a chart. It was exactly this situation when I took short here. When we build a VWAP, from last swing high, for example, you have that price started downward trend, and you will have a question: when should I take a trade? Often, what I do, I simply wait when price retest VWAP and start some consolidation. And during that consolidation, there was quite open interest increase, and it was exactly a moment when it is the best to take trend continuation. Yes, of course, you can see after that I took that Ripple trade 7% more, and price after that dropped additional 10%, which is beautiful, and that's how you make money. Honestly, once more, I really love when price do some consolidation, because when price do local consolidation, it's really easier to take a trade because you have high of that local consolidation as the best option to take a trade. That's a reason why I don't like to set up exactly limit orders, because sometimes price can follow through uh, before that level reverse. I love when the price stop around it, consolidate, and I take a trade, because in that case I have the smallest stop loss possible and best risk to reward ratio. Can we use VWAP and open interest in intraday trading? How many time frames do we need to see it intraday? Yes, of course, especially you can do it when coins in a move. And you have some volatility increase on some coins. In that case, I advise you to use VWAP. For example, you can see some aggressive open interest increase. You can start to build up a VWAP from a point where open interest increase. Price retest VWAP. In that case, you can look for continuation. For intraday, it is really good to use. That was trend market, and let's cover a little bit regarding range market. Mm, Let me check. Boom, 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 boom. One more example for a trend market, which was maybe one of the greatest move. It is example for you how you can have together a trend and VWAP. For example, for you here, what I did, I took short before this massive drop on VWAP. I made on that trade 1,200. And what was the reason why I took the trade? Because we had together two situations. We had massive open interest increase inside in a range. Open interest increased from 760 contracts to 900. And let's go to that situation. And what was also there, when you go to a bigger time frame, it was exactly this moment. Guess what was also there? Just guess. It was also a VWAP. Imagine before VWAP, someone built an aggressive position, and after that, from that position, Ripple dropped. I remember when I wrote ideas on paper, and a lot of people didn't believe me, but after that, price dropped 61%. VWAP, once more, it's really good to combine VWAP. You can use it uh, on different time frames, because once more, you can use it on 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hour, 6 hour, 7 hour, 8 hour, 9 hour, 10 hour, 11 hour, 12 hour, 13 hour, 14 hour, 15 hour, 16 hour, 17 hour, 18 hour, 19 hour, 20 hour, 21 hour, 22 hour, 23 hour, 24 hour, 25 hour, 26 hour, 27 hour, 28 hour, 29 hour, 30 hour, 31 hour, 32 hour, 33 hour, 34 hour, 35 hour, 36 hour, 37 hour, 38 hour, 39 hour, 40 hour, 41 hour, 42 hour, 43 hour, 44 hour, 45 hour, 46 hour, 47 hour, 48 hour, 49 hour, 50 hour, 51 hour, 52 hour, 53 hour, 54 hour, 55 hour, 56 hour, 57 hour, 58 hour, 59 hour, 60 hour, 61 smaller time frame to do scalp trades. When you have coin in play, it's really good to use VWAP. You can do it on a bigger time frames for significant trends. You can do on midterm trends. But it is always better to use it together with some other order flow tool because you can see when price approach VWAP, massive volume increase, open interest rise. That's really good confirmation. Good. At this moment, friends, from 1 to 10, rate please. How do you like what I showed to you? And let's go to a range market because range market is also important. And honestly, a crypto stay in a for way longer period of time, and you just need to remember it. Before just few minutes, I have really good, great news for you because remember that you can get all of this stuff, all of this education in one place. We have really unique proposition for you. Those trades came from a system, not random signals, a clear framework built around VWAP and other indicators. You can see VWAP, open interest, volume, and market structure. That's how you have the best trades. That's why with my team, we propose you that you can copy this process and make money with us. What exactly you can get? Same market logic, proven repeatable price behavior. After that, exactly places where you can take a trade, indicators template, and define risk management. No guessing, just a framework. Private trader club for traders who want more than random signals. Build for traders who want to clear trading plan support and real execution. What exactly you will get by working with us? First, it is a private with group where we share with you signals, trade setups, online meeting with our coaches, mentors, and indicator software setup. How it looks like, how clubs help you, because you will learn how to read the market. We will show you how to take best trading setups during different market, and of course, you can communicate with people who also making money on a crypto and helping you become better. How exactly it looks like? First, let me show to you. Uh, First, it is example for you how our signals look like. We show to you where we take trade, set stop loss, take profit, and after that, our people take results. Another example for you. Well, it doesn't matter what to trade, long, short. The most important simply to be profitable. You can see when we take trade, we share you take profit, and after that, we share with you all the updates. Another example like BNP, long, and after that, we close position. The same you can see with other coins. Additionally, step-by-step course lesson where you will learn our strategy, our approach, and you will understand how to work. And the most important, my friends, it is one-on-one session of our teammates, because in most cases, when you join some signals group, why it doesn't work? Because you still need a little bit knowledge. You need to know how to set up properly, stop loss, take profits. Some of you also would like to dig deeper and understand the market and take trades by yourself. And honestly, the one-on-one lessons is the best because for such money, for money that we propose to you, in best case, you get access to some group, or in other case, you will work in where a lot of people, and it would be hard to grow for you personally. When people join our education and group choose option where they can face-to-face lesson, they have their problems to be solved. They learn strategies. They can trade with our traders because most companies they have a lot of courses, but they never trade with you, and but we do. That's the reason why you will grow way faster. Personal coaching support, how it looks like. We create closed Telegram groups where we add you, our mentors, and our support agent who help you with all indicator setup, with all software setup. You can ask a question. You can see like our student ask a question, and after that, our mentor send reply. Student ask a question, our mentor send a reply. You will never have such communication in any other place. That's why what you get exactly, as you can see, you can simply join basic. It is access to a private club where you will get all signals, stop loss, market updates. Uh, Choose optimal, you will get access to also signals. Additionally, you will have access to a course. And when you choose maximum, you will have access also to free one-on-one lesson with a trader analyst. We will help you to improve a personal trading strategy, or we'll share our strategies and advanced scalping lessons where you can trade live with our mentors. How to get it? How to get it's really simple. Below this video, my friend, below this live session, there would be a special form. Open it and fill it. But once more, when you do it, pay attention to phone number because a lot of you from different countries. Choose your country. For example, you from Albania, right? Click Albania and write your phone number with international standard because in that case, my team will be able to connect with you. Okay, coming back to a range, let's go, my friends, to a range market. What's difference between trend market and range market? Major difference that price during trend market price moves from VWAP. During range market, price moves around VWAP. And during range market, your goal is to look for deviations. During trend, you look for VWAP itself. During range, you look for deviations. Example for you, maybe one of the best examples is like here on Litecoin. You can see price started really low, wide range. How do you trade it? How do you trade such long, wide range? It's really simple. When price, as you can see, you have this shifting point, and when price goes inside, you simply build a VWAP. And after that, when price in a range, you look at price, for example, bouncing from second VWAP deviation. That's exactly when you will look for a trade. The best when there would be not only VWAP deviation, but also some additional confirmations. Let me show it to you. Maybe the greatest example. It was maybe one of the greatest example on a planet that I saw of a local confirmation. Let me show it to you. A few seconds, my friend. It is like this one. You have price started, for example, ranging. And what you do, you can see that price. Let us do this one, 1.5 and second. You can see first deviation 1.5, and during that 1.5, you have massive open interest increase. Boom, good trade. Below you have significant volume spike. For example, here again, you have open interest price. Again, price retested second VWAP deviation, 1.5 VWAP deviation. As you can see, sometimes price extend a range. Of course, you will have sometimes stop losses. It's normal. Again, 1.5. After that, as you can see, price to a high. Honestly, I prefer take a trade when I see that at range high, range low, we have some increase in open interest in any other volume. Maybe one of the greatest example of range, it was exactly, it was my friends, it was maybe this example of range. Honestly, it was one of the greatest ranges that I saw on the market. Let me show to you on a smaller time frame, 1 hour, because what you can see, price in a range for many days and 19 days, 20 days. If you would try to take a trade in the middle, what would be with you and your account? Of course, you would be liquidated. You will have a lot of stop losses. VWAP simply show to you, I would say, a golden areas. For example, price bounce from this deviation, you understand 1.5 VWAP deviation is in play. Price reached some volume increase. Good. Let's take a trade here. For example, price reached range high. You have opening absorption. Good opportunity for a trade. Again, open interest rise at high. Good opportunity because there's some volume. Mm. Can you please slowly show us your VWAP settings so we can set up it like yours? Uh, my friend, for every student who join our education program or our community, we help to set up everything on VWAP and all our indicators. That's the reason once more why I advise you to fill the form, and my team will help you to set up everything correctly. That's why sometimes, as you can see, you will have combination together. Like price, as you can see, price is in a range. On a bigger time frame, you have, for example, VWAP, and you have open interest increase. That's how you combine all of this stuff together. You will never use it alone in empty space. Okay, and let's cover a few other examples. Friends, remember to push likes. That's really important for more people to see it. For Worldcoins, I advise you to use VWAP. It would be way better to use VWAP. Honestly, in a range, it is the best to use for top coins where significant volume. Remember, VWAP based on volume, and for VWAP, it's super important to have a lot of volume. That's why uh, it is top priority. It is, of course, Ethereum. It is its top priority. You can see 0.525 VWAP deviation. And also top priority is Bitcoin and Solana. My advice for a range market, prefer to use all coins with bigger volume. For a trend market, it is really awesome to use with any coin because with a trend market, often you will have like a question, coin started a pump, where to look for continuation. And of course, VWAP will often help you with answering that question. Okay, let's do some answering in your questions. Uh, my friend, time to answer on your question and prepare to US session. Remind to you to join because on daily basis you will get updates, signals, trading plans, support that will help you become profitable. Choose your option, which is better for you. Fill the form. Link will be in the description, and also I pinned it into a chat. And at this moment, Q&A. Can you please slowly show your VWAP settings so we can set up it like yours? Thank you. My friend, when you join, my team will help you to set up from A to Z. That's why I want to our community and people help you. So update, I did update yesterday. Follow this channel, follow us on Telegram, and I will do new update tomorrow. For you, my friend, we'll do new update tomorrow. Can we use VWAP open interest in intraday trading? Not only can, but you should use. Maybe you have a question how to use. Write into a chat if you have a question how to use it, because we can discuss. I will show to you some techniques. Okay, my friends, remind to you, main reason why you need to use a VWAP, because I know that all of you have only the same all of you have only one reason why you need a VWAP, because you want to take such beautiful trades, make a result. When you trade, remember that you need a combination of three factors. You need trend and structure, which is the foundation of your strategy. Key areas, which you can find by using VWAP. That's the reason why you need VWAP, because VWAP helps you with key areas and also with a trend and local confirmation. That's the reason why additionally we use VWAP, um, Delta, and other stuff. Example for you, let me show to you even example that had happened with it happened with Doge. Few days ago, Doge, as you remember, started reversing. And what was the reason why Dogecoin started to reversing? Because there was significant spot delta absorption. Pay attention. And if you remember my last ideas that I recorded on Doge, from this moment, I recorded only short ideas. Why I did it? Because mm, from this moment, because we had significant volume absorption, and as you can see, trend reversed, and after that, you can see price moves below VWAP, and you switch, become bearish. That's a reason why it's important to see where where you rebuild VWAP, because when you understand when to rebuild VWAP, it shows to you once more best areas where to take trade. For example, like here, Solana. Have a look how Solana exactly retested and beautiful drop. After that, again, as you can see, you tested new drop. That's why you need VWAP. Okay, I was happy to see all of you here. Use VWAP correctly. I wish you a lot of profit and have a nice day.